In honor of Black History Month, Showtime is premiering a provocative docu-series called Everything's Gonna Be All White.
The three-part series explores the history of race in America from the perspective of people of color. It gives insight into a number of topics like the shifting classifications of racial identity, white privilege, the generational effects of racism, reparations, and the fight over land rights. Joining us to talk more about this series is producer and co-writer Djali Brown-Cepeda. Djali, I saw just a quick snippet of it and was intrigued right away. And part of this, it's all people of color that are speaking in it, but it's a cross-section. It's historians, artists, and activists. What did you find maybe that's different in having such a wide range of people speaking?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me today. You know, I think what's the most interesting thing about this project is that we are not just proverbially passing the mic to people who may be notable in these fields of, sociology, history, et cetera, but we're rather showing or lifting the veil on conversations that people are just having and that people have had and that people will continue to have, right? These are conversations that are had at barbershops, in living rooms. It's just really interesting to be able to pass the mic to so many different kinds of people and be able to say, here's the platform. What do you think about these things that are affecting us all the time? And it's cool, to not only just talk to professors, historians, people who work in academia, but also, like you mentioned, artists, people of all backgrounds to show through lines, of our thought processes and how we are navigating what it means to be us in this country.
Djali, what were the things that most concerned you or that you found in the whitewashing of history, culture, and education?
Well, I think what's interesting is that there's a sort of double consciousness that a lot of us, grow up with or end up finding as Black people, Latino people, Arab folks, AAPI folk, which is you're living in two different, places at once. And so what's interesting is that although schools, books, education systems at large aren't necessarily teaching us what we need to be taught about histories, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the complicated. A lot of us already taught this stuff at home growing up, right? By our parents, by our grandparents, by our aunts and uncles, by our communities. And so I think that, what was so fascinating for me, though personally, was learning about, how so much is connected and how even though, there are certain experiences that affect Black people more, Latinos more, Arab folk more, indigenous people, more, we're all dealing with the same roots of these issues. And what is that root? It's the systemic, racism, inequality, inequities that have plagued this country since its, establishment, and I use that term lightly.
Djali, do you want, it's hard, I know you want to watch this, but do you hope that this is somebody who watches it, someone that's white that has a better understanding? Do you hope it's a person of color who says, I've never heard these stories before? Who do you think this may speak to more, or is it everyone?
I hope it's, for everybody. I think that when it comes to people of color, a lot of us live in our respective communities. It's not just being a person of color doesn't make you an expert on all isms, right, that are affecting our communities. So I hope that there's a better understanding of camaraderie, right, and of we're dealing with this thing, you may be dealing with that thing, but they're similar, and let's figure out a way to come together to, address said issue. And then, for white people, I just want people to watch this. I want people to laugh. I want people to be uncomfortable. I want it to spark conversation and spark curiosity. And even though it may be uncomfortable at moments, that's how we grow. We grow through discomfort, growing pains, as they say.
Yeah, you know what? Watching the trailer, mission accomplished. Because I had moments of watching the trailer and I was a little uncomfortable going, okay, yeah, we talk about that a lot.
We talk about it all the time, but it sparks conversation. And I think that we're kind of in a moment right now where people don't want to be uncomfortable.
Right.
And people are trying to push away some of the facts of what folks are trying to say, hey, this actually happened.
Face it, yeah.
So that is I think that's the root question here.
Yeah.
Are people going to open their eyes, listen in, and are they going to deal with what has been plaguing the country for now, almost 4 centuries?
Yeah, it's what we were trying to do. The trailer is a bit more, comical, but the show marries history and humor. There are moments that are really funny. It's not about beating folks over the brow with such heavy information. No, it's saying, look, this is what things have been. This is the history. These are the causes. And this is why certain communities may feel ways about certain topics. And let's just figure it out. It doesn't do anyone justice to act like things don't exist, right? The pink elephant in the room. And so that's why, again, though, to be open and to not be so heavy with everything, we have, moments that are comedic to make people laugh and then to make people say, oh my goodness, am I able to laugh at that? It's really about presenting this information in a way that I hope is accessible to everyone. And no one, on the show or folks who work on the show, no one is saying, these are the answers. We all have the answers. No, it's just saying, this is what some people think. And take with it what, you will. And you don't have to agree, but at least we're having conversation.
Having conversation. Djali Brown-Cepeda, you've definitely done that. Well, thank you so much for joining us.